Good morning, Sohail, how are you?
Good, Emily, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Great.
So you are from Societe Generale?
Yeah.
Can you please give me a bit of a background?
Sure,
what
so
you do?
I run the execution platform business for our global markets franchise within Societe Gen. I'm based in the UK, but it's a global role. But specifically for the UK, I run the digital office, so which is what we call the UK Chief Digital Officer. And I look at our digital programs, our digitalization of our existing processes, and also partnerships with fintechs. Hence the reason why we're here today at Fintech Talents as well, to understand what is out there. And I've been involved in a panel today on a DeFi panel.
Yeah. So can you actually tell me a little bit more about the panel that you joined today about bridging the chatting?
Sure. So it was a really interesting conversation today. I think what we try to do is distill a lot of terminology that's out there. Particularly, some of the audience may not, coming from a traditional finance background, may not fully understand what DeFi is, and then trying to compare that between a DeFi and a TradFi. How do you bridge between TradFi and DeFi? Bringing out concepts like CeFi as well. So there's a whole bunch of terminology which we try to kind of distill and break that down in a more understandable format. And I think there's a lot of discussion around the progress of DeFi, around protocols, moving away from a speculative kind of mindset to more around what business opportunities there are from a retail perspective, but also from a business-to-business perspective. It was great to have on the panel people who were working in the DeFi space, but also on the institutional side as well, and having my background looking on it, and I was the actual moderator on the panel today.
From the perspective of a large established institution, how can DeFi crypto assets be of any benefits to your customers?
So if I look at it there are twofold, two ways of looking at this. One is obviously there's an interest from our institutional clients who want to understand what capabilities we can offer from a crypto asset custodianship or trading perspective. And we have a unit called SG Forge that came out from an internal startup platform or call a few years ago. That's now been set up as a dedicated unit within SG, which is very much focused on digital assets, digital tokenization, CDBCs, seeing how that all gets worked together, and how do we think about digital asset custodianship. So we've announced a partnership with Mercato, which happened quite recently. And the second side of it is more to do with where do we see the DeFi technical space and technology space going from an innovation perspective. So clearly we spend a lot of time changing our technology, changing our tech stack, moving to much more of an agile way of doing things, moving things towards clouds, having APIs to make our accessibility and integration a lot easier. And DeFi in terms of the technology side, smart contracts, creating new models, new markets, new opportunities is an interesting space for us. So myself coming from a structured products background, to understand how structured products can be tokenized, what derivatives may look like, what the derivatives market may look like going forward, that's why it's of real interest to us and the team at Societe Gen.
Super. And how do you bridge the gap of understanding between your customers and all the things that you know?
I think that's a good question. I think the challenge we have there is it depends where are we in the cycle. And I think there's been a lot of innovation, a lot of energy in the first part on the early adoption side. And when I look at hackathons, for example, I went to a recent hackathon in London with Solana just to see what it was about. But the energy and the enthusiasm and the development environment and the way people were talking and the conversations they were having are probably conversations I haven't heard for quite some time when I first look at online banking, when the internet first got launched 20 years ago. And there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of excitement, a lot of enthusiasm for people who want to try and find solutions out of those ecosystems that are there. Obviously Solana's not the only one, it's the same with other protocols like Avalanche, and you can name quite a few. But it's interesting to see how that space is developing really quite quickly. I'd say it's developing faster than it is in the traditional fintech space. So having an understanding and being involved in that and seeing what's going on, and also you've got to see the talent is going there. So we need to understand what's happening there that could be incorporated in our change that we need to think about how we do things going forward.
I love your excitement and enthusiasm about that space. So what can we expect from Societe Generale in the future in that space?
Yeah, I think we're going to continue with the work that SG Forge are doing and the relationships that our salespeople are having with clients to have those discussions around crypto assets and digital assets and what that looks like for them and what they need. Also still focusing on digital asset tokenization, keeping our pulse with the CDBC, with the work we've done with Banque de France and ECB, and making sure we continue that dialogue with the relevant parties in the existing traditional finance space, but also keeping in mind what's going on in the DeFi space, so we can understand what new products are going to look like, what new protocols are going to look like, how we're going to integrate with that, and what's the client experience going to look like. Again, understanding what our clients need and always referring back to what our clients actually are looking for and anticipating the need that they may have in the future.
Brilliant. It's great to see big established players like yourself really looking at this space. Thank you so much for your time today, Sohail.
Great.
Have a good rest of the day.
You too. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.